Namaste. Uttarashadha is a highly optimistic nakshatra. There is a lot of life, lot of activity, and moreover, positivity in this nakshatra. In Hindi, there is a beautiful phrase, Zinda Dil. Uttarashadha is just like that. Zinda Dil means a lively person, a person who is always optimistic, hopeful, a person who never give up. You will never find a rainbow if you are looking down. You will find rainbow only when you are looking up. What it means is that when your aim is high, when you aim high, only then you will reach high. If your thoughts are of higher quality, only then you will attain the higher altitudes. And that is why many great men and women born on Uttarashadha Nakshatra with moon in Uttarashadha have attained high positions in their career. In this podcast, I have shared many such insights with some beautiful stories and spiritual insights. So let's begin. Uttarashadha is a highly optimistic nakshatra. Men and women born in this nakshatra are found to be optimistic, hopeful, and also energetic. The very essence or meaning of Uttarashadha is attaining victory in life, but at a later phase of life. And so generally men and women born with moon in Uttarashadha attain success in their late 40s. Duty first. When it comes to Uttarashadha, the native is very much focused on doing his duty sincerely, and generally the native gives first priority to executing his duty than to his family. So ideally, Uttarashadha is not a family first person, but a duty first person. And so natives born with moon in Uttarashadha do extremely well in the police force and in the military as well. Whenever there is a mention of moon in Uttarashadha, I visualize a military commander in charge or a strong warrior who enjoys the good support of his people. These are mass leaders. They have a magnetic personality, and moreover, evolved souls born with moon in Uttarashadha always help those in need. In fact, they love to live for others' well-being. Reminds me of that beautiful quote of Paramahansa Yogananda. There is a magnet in your heart that will attract true friends. That magnet is unselfishness, thinking of others first. When you learn to live for others, they will live for you. Uttarashadha is a highly humanistic by nature. And so generally evolved souls born on Uttarashadha don't give much importance to religion. To them, humanity is the only religion. The famous Hollywood star Brad Pitt is born with moon in Uttarashadha Nakshatra. He has been very active in contributing to humanitarian and political causes. Interest in social upliftment, politics, and humanitarian causes comes naturally to moon in Uttarashadha Nakshatra. The very first US President, George Washington, was also born with moon in Uttarashadha Nakshatra. As mentioned earlier, these natives are highly optimistic. The American Revolutionary War against the British Army continued for 8 long years. However, George Washington remained optimistic and never gave up. It was George Washington's optimism that was one of the greatest resources of America during the 8 years of the Revolutionary War. Optimistic, hopeful, but also realistic is what depicts the whole essence of Moon in Uttarashadha Nakshatra. Moon in Uttarashadha is a staunch enemy of Moon in Adra Nakshatra and Moon in Mula Nakshatra. And so natives born with Moon in Uttarashadha should be cautious while dealing with men and women born with Moon in Adra and Mula Nakshatra. Sun signifies ego. When Moon is in Virgo Uttara Falguni, the ego demands attention through intellectualism. When Moon is in Taurus Kritika, the ego demands attention through the accumulation of wealth. And when Moon is in Uttarashadha, the ego demands real power. The pleasure of ruling over the masses. It is said that power is never given, it is taken. And Moon in Uttarashadha native knows very well on how to take power, how to attain real power. Capricorn is a highly political sign, and Moon in Uttarashadha provides all the qualities to succeed in politics. Then whether the politics is at the national level, international level, or in the local office, these natives are highly competitive when it comes to playing the game of politics. Too much ambition to attain the seat of power leads them to many challenges and miseries. But since they are born to attain power, they take great pleasure in walking through the many challenges of life until they attain the supreme seat of power. And so many of them become CEO, COO, and founding member of organizations. In fact, George Washington, the first US president, was also one of the founding fathers of the US. Industrious and hardworking, natives born on Uttarashadha rise to higher levels of career. In fact, these natives are highly career-oriented individuals. A woman born on Uttarashadha is indeed a career woman and generally advocates for woman empowerment. Such a woman is totally determined to rise in her life. There is no force more powerful than a woman determined to rise. Level-headed and sorted person is what you get with a strong moon in Uttarashadha Nakshatra. Uttarashadha Nakshatra fellows are outgoing and they generally are found to have a large circle of friends. In today's age of social networking, Uttarashadha natives are the ones who can and who are doing great on social platforms. They have a huge following and they know how to drive their social networking platforms to gain more momentum among their fans and followers. I personally like native born with moon in Uttarashadha Nakshatra. Although they have the necessary qualities of Lord Saturn, such as being pragmatic and realistic, they also have the outgoing, frank disposition of Lord Sun, making them a perfect person for executive managerial roles. In fact, many men and women with this placement have done extremely well in management careers. Always remember, Uttarashadha means power, real power. And in the old days, especially in the Indian subcontinent, the man who ruled over the whole world was addressed as Chakravarti. Once it happened, the great master of all masters, Gautam Buddha, was seated beneath a tree. And it is said that an astrologer was walking through the same path, and on his way he saw the footprints of the Buddha on the wet sand. And he could not believe his eyes. All the scriptures that he had been studying his whole life had been telling him about certain signs that exist in the feet of a man who rules the world, a Chakravarti, a ruler of all the 6 continents, a ruler of the whole earth. And he saw in the footprints in the wet sand on the river bank all the symbols so clearly that he could not believe his eyes. Either all his scriptures were wrong and he was wasting his life in astrology. Otherwise, how was it possible on such a hot afternoon in such a small dirty village a Chakravarti would come and walk barefoot on the burning hot sand? He followed the footprints just in search of the man to whom these footprints belonged. He found the Buddha sitting under a tree. He was even more puzzled. The face was that of a Chakravarti, the grace, the beauty, the power, the aura. But the man was a beggar with a begging bowl. The astrologer touched the feet of the Buddha and asked him, "Who are you, sir? You have puzzled me. You should be a Chakravarti, a world ruler. What are you doing here, sitting under this tree? Either all my astrology books are wrong, or I am hallucinating, and you are not really there." Buddha said, "Your books are absolutely right, but there is something which belongs to no category, not even to the category of a Chakravarti. I am, but I am nobody in particular." The astrologer said, "You are puzzling me more. How can you be without being anybody in particular? You must be a god who has come to visit the earth. I can see it in your eyes." Buddha said, "I am not God." The astrologer said, "Then you must be a Gandharva, a celestial musician." Buddha said, "No, I am not a Gandharva either." And the astrologer went on asking, "Then are you a king in disguise? Who are you? You can't be an animal, you can't be a tree, you can't be a rock. Who exactly are you?" And the answer Buddha gave is of immense importance to understand. He said, "I am just a Buddha. I am just awareness and nothing else. I don't belong to any category. Every category is an identification, and I don't have any identity." What a beautiful answer. Every category is an identification, and I don't have any identity. The real power is to conquer yourself. Then you don't have to fight battles on the outside. Gautam Buddha was one such man who had conquered himself. He was in the true sense a Chakravarti, the conqueror of the world within. One who conquers others is strong. However, one who conquers himself is all powerful, says the Divine Master Lao Tzu. Native born on Uttarashadha should focus on attaining the real power. And the real power comes not by defeating the enemies on the outside, but by defeating the enemies within. There is no enemy outside our soul. The real enemies live inside us, and they are anger, ego, lust, greed, and hate, says the Buddha. When there is no enemy within you, then the enemies on the outside cannot hurt you. And so the real Chakravarti is that man or woman who focuses within and defeats the many enemies that exist within. The real journey is the journey within. The deity of Uttarashadha Nakshatra is Varaha, the third incarnation or avatar of Lord Vishnu. For those who are based outside India, in simple words, if I have to explain, then Varaha is wild boar. And this wild boar represents the star Uttarashada. The deity of Uttarashada is a divine wild boar called Varaha. One who worships Lord Varaha receives the blessings of Uttarashadha Nakshatra. In India, Varaha Jayanti is celebrated in the month of September. I humbly prostrate before Lord Varaha, the god of strength and vitality. May his blessings shower upon me and all my close followers. Moon in Uttarashadha native should never marry a woman having moon in Ashlesha, simply because they are enemies of each other. Ashlesha is represented by a snake, whereas Uttarashadha is represented by a mongoose. And as you all know, snake and mongoose are bitter enemies of each other. So ideally, natives having moon in Ashlesha and moon in Uttarashadha should never associate with each other unless there is a compulsion. Even a business partnership is not recommended if your moon is in Uttarashadha and your business partner's moon is in Ashlesha. Mohan asked, which tree is sacred for Uttarashadha Nakshatra? Which tree should we worship to attain Uttarashadha's blessings? The tree that Uttarashadha relates is the tree of jackfruit. Incidentally, jackfruit is Singapore's national fruit. And I will tell you all a secret of jackfruit. The secret of jackfruit is that whosoever plants this wonderful tree of heavens always prospers in life. Jackfruit is indeed a fruit of prosperity. To receive more blessings from the mighty star of Uttarashadha, the native should offer jackfruit to Lord Vishnu and if possible also plant a tree of jackfruit in his backyard or in his garden. Reciting the holy mantra of Lord Vishnu, Om Vishnave Namaha, Om Vishnave Namaha, Om Vishnave Namaha, 108 times every morning and evening for a minimum of 20 minutes using a Spatik Japamala is also very helpful in overcoming the too ambitious nature of Uttarashadha Nakshatra. Always remember, ambition appears as good, but in reality, this ambition is poison that goes on killing you every day, and the best part is you never come to know until you die, until you take your last breath. Ambition is the greatest poison there is. It brings all the other poisons, greed, violence, competitiveness, struggle, a constant state of war with everybody else. It does not allow you any space for love to grow, and your real being flowers only with love. Ambition is against love, and anything that is against love is against you and your real life, your real destiny. And nothing kills love more than ambitiousness. Always remember, the wheel of life goes round and round on the axle of ambition, hell. It is this fever of ambition that poisons life. Among the most serious diseases and mental troubles that man has known, there is no greater disease than ambition. Because a mind which is disturbed by the wind of ambition is not destined to have peace, music, and bliss. Such a person is not at home in himself, and peace, music, and bliss are the outcome of being at home in oneself. A person who is not at home within himself is diseased. He is only healthy when he is at home there. In practical life, it is not bad to dream of attaining something, but you should know when to stop and where to stop. And if you are not able to do so, then you become Alexander the Great, who died in utter disappointment. The last words of Alexander the Great, who spent his whole life in conquering the whole world but failed, his last words were, "All is vanity." And for this vanity, he spent his whole life. What a tragedy. The last moment of Alexander's life is worth mentioning. It is said that the sun was setting. Alexander was dying. He was dying in his golden palace. He had the most beautiful palace that anybody has ever had before or since. He had all the power that a man can have, and all the riches, and all the beautiful women. He had all the greatest physicians of the world to take care of him, and he was not very old, but he was dying. And the physician said, "Now we are helpless." He wanted to be alive at least 24 hours more, just 24 hours more, because he wanted to see his mother. He had promised his mother that he would come back. He had to go and conquer the world. But when he was leaving, he promised his mother that he would come back. And the distance was very little, but at least 24 hours were needed to reach there, or for the mother to be brought to him. And he only wanted to live for 24 hours more. With all the wealth of the world and all the power of the world. But the physician said, "It is impossible. You cannot live for even 24 minutes. Life is disappearing, slipping away. We are sorry, but we cannot do anything." Lying on a golden couch, studded with valuable diamonds, how helpless Alexander must have felt. He was just asking for 24 hours, not much at least for an Alexander. He was not a beggar. 24 hours for a man like Alexander was not too much, but even that was not possible. And when the last flicker of life was disappearing, he opened his eyes, looked at his gold palace, his generals standing around him, his immensely costly couch on which he was dying, a poor man, a beggar, and he laughed at the whole ridiculousness of it, and he wanted only 24 hours. These were his last words. He said, "All is vanity," closed his eyes and died. All is vanity. And he struggled his whole life for this vanity. He died a poor man, empty, exhausted, utterly disillusioned. Let this not happen with you. Wake up before it is too late. Alexander wanted only 24 hours, but even that was denied. You all have time to introspect, time to turn inwards, time to attain the real growth. Real growth is the growth within. Real growth is based on how many years you have spent in realizing yourself. How many years you have spent in taking the necessary efforts to move beyond the mind by chanting, by meditating every day. The answer that you find for these questions will decide your future course of birth and rebirth. Always remember, there is no such thing as moksha or liberation after death. If liberation has to happen, then that has to happen now, in this birth itself, while you are alive. What is liberation? Liberation is the state of no mind. Buddha is the state of no mind. Take efforts to move beyond mind. Remember, if at all you want to progress on your spiritual path, then this birth, this planet, this place is to do it. The great spiritual master Paramahamsa Yogananda says, don't depend on death to liberate you from your imperfections. You are exactly the same after death as you were before. Nothing changes. You only give up the body. If you are a thief or a liar or a cheater before death, you don't become an angel merely by dying. If such were possible, then let us all go and jump in the ocean now and now itself, and become angels at once. Whatever you have made of yourself thus far, so will you be hereafter. And when you reincarnate, you will bring that same nature with you. To change, you have to make the effort. This world is the place to do it. Remember, moon in Uttarashadha may provide you material success, but you remain utterly poor within as long as you don't embark on the greatest journey of life, the journey within. The great Sufi saint Rumi quotes, "You have no need to travel anywhere. Journey within yourself, enter a mine of rubies and bath in the splendor of your own light." Remember to meditate every day. Start with chanting the holy mantra of your choice, and when you chant, do not entertain any thoughts. Continue to focus on your breathing while you chant. And when you chant, chant with love, with devotion, and with total surrender. Always remember, grace is ever present. All that is necessary is that you surrender to it. Surrender can never be regarded as complete as long as the devotee wants this or that from the Lord, says the Bhagwan. Meditate on these divine words of the Bhagwan, and you may find the light within. Love to all my close followers. Learn to live your life by surrendering to God. That is the surest way to happiness. And when you surrender, you drop all your demands. You just follow the flow of your life. You just learn to live your life with total acceptance. When you learn to live your life with acceptance, you are able to let go. And when you actually let go, you start progressing in the true sense. Stay blessed, and always remember to raise the quality of your life by focusing within, by turning inwards, and by coming more and more closer to yourself. Jai Sri Ganesha, Jai Guru. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha.